the final day of Jewish American Heritage Month, and part of building a better Bay Area is recognizing the many contributions of that community. ABC 7 News anchor Dan Ashley conducted a series of interviews with Jewish Americans. Dan is in the newsroom with their comments. Dan.
Hi, Liz. I spoke with three people who know about as much as anyone about the triumphs, struggles, and contributions of Jewish Americans. A local rabbi who leads a synagogue in Danville, as well as famed defense attorney and human rights advocate Alan Dershowitz. But let's start with Anita, an 86-year-old Bay Area Holocaust survivor who at 6 years old was forced into hiding, living in an attic for 2 years to escape the Nazis. I asked her about Jewish American Heritage Month.
What are you thinking about, and what would you encourage others to think about?
Really, the resilience. I think of Jewish history as the history of over 1,000 years in Europe, in Christian Europe, of anti-Semitism, of racism, of pogroms, of murder, of persecution. And yet we survivors, we seem to survive. We seem to survive and not allow ourselves to become the eternal victims.
We're a country of immigrants. What would we be if not for Jewish Americans, Italian Americans, Irish Americans, Latino Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans? That's who the country is.
What is it about human nature, Alan, that makes us somehow want to divide one another up?
We have to stop that. We have to remember we are a country in which all citizens are equal. It took some constitutional amendments to get us there. For women, for young people voting, for African Americans. Thankfully, we're most of the way there, at least legally. We have a long way to go, factually.
What makes you proud of your Jewish tradition? Proud to be a Jew, proud of what the Jewish faith has meant to America, not just our local community, but the country?
Well, you know, Dan, one of our most cherished spiritual directives is you know what it means to be the other. And if anyone in your community feels him or herself to be other, you have a responsibility to stand with them, to make sure that they are not marginalized, that they are not oppressed.
What is it that gives you particular pride about being Jewish?
We have contributed enormously to the welfare of each of our countries, despite facing discrimination. And I think that battle continues, and we have to continue to fight for complete equality and to have our contributions, along with those of many others, recognized as part of the American dream.
Do you remain optimistic and hopeful about the future of relations in this country between faiths?
I've never been more optimistic, Dan. I feel like, you know, a lot of people have said, you know, since 2016, when hate was given permission to come out into the public arena, it was there. It was hiding. Now it's out in the open. And it allows us to be more real and more honest about the work that we need to do.
Do you still retain a sense of optimism for the future?
Yes, I do. Mostly because of the young people. And our children in schools are learning the messages of their own value and of the need for respect for each other, about the horrors of racism and anti-Semitism. I never learned any of that in my school. So at least the schools are doing, and I think more parents are conscious of it. So I'm counting on our younger people to make this a better world.
Young people that Anita regularly speaks to, at least 2,000 so far via Zoom, she tells me, sharing her experience of surviving the Holocaust and of leading a meaningful life, and she has surely done that. My thanks to Anita, Rabbi Dan Bartlett, and Alan Dershowitz for helping us end Jewish American Heritage Month with a lot to think about. Larry and Liz?
Important that young people hear her message, because we're so many decades removed from the Holocaust, from World War II. Unless you hear it from somebody, it just hits differently when you see the person right in front of you that experienced these atrocities, and you can't get that from a history book.
No, you can't. And Larry, that's a great point. I actually talked with Anita about this today. Larry, you remember years ago I went with Holocaust survivors to Auschwitz and Birkenau and Treblinka, very powerful. And when that generation of people dies off, it really does fade into the history books for a lot of people. They're no longer people first-hand references. So it is important to hear them.
Yeah, great reporting there. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.